Okay, in our second video on volume and our seventh video in this outcome, we're going to take a look at the volume of right cones and right pyramids. This is from section 1.5 of your textbook and outcome M3. Alright, in the last video you saw that in general volume for any prism is base area times height. Now we'll see that any cone or pyramid that ends at a point called the apex will be just that same base area times height multiplied by 1/3. So for example, the volume of this pyramid here will be 1/3 times the base area, which is length times width, times the height. And the volume of this cone will be the 1/3 times the base area. Well, the base area is pi r squared, and the height is h. Okay, let's take a look at a first example then. Determine the volume of a right cone with a radius of 5 centimeters and a height of 13 centimeters. So the basic image here of our cone looks something like this. Okay, and so we know that the radius of the base is 5 centimeters and the height is 13 centimeters. So the volume, again, is 1/3 times the base area times the height. Well, so that's 1/3 times base area times height of 13. Well, what is the base area? Well, this base is a circle, right? This is a nice, beautifully drawn circle. And this circle has got a radius of 5 centimeters. So our base area is pi r squared for all circles. So that's pi times 5 squared. Okay, well, it's just a matter of typing all this in. So 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 13. And that gives me 340.3 centimeters cubed. Okay, for our next problem, we're going to find the volume of a right square pyramid with a base of 4 inches by 4 inches. So it's got a square base, 4 by 4, and with a slant height of 6 inches. So let's draw the slant height here, along the side, climbing up the side, slant height of 6. Now the problem is that volume is base area times height times 1/3. But I don't have the height. I've got the slant height. Now we'll recall from previous videos that the slant height and the height form a nice right triangle with each other. So I've got a right triangle here where one side, the hypotenuse is 6, the height is unknown, and this bottom side is actually a length of 2, because that comes from the center of the pyramid to the outside. And if the entire side is length of 4, then from the center to the outside would be a length of 2. Okay, so to find the height, I know that 2 squared plus my height squared is going to be 6 squared. You can work this out on your own, and if you do that, you'll discover that the height is equal to the square root of 32, whatever that value is. Okay, so the volume is 1/3 times the base area, which I'll leave blank, times the height, which is square root 32. Now what's the base area? Well, it's just a square. So the area of the square is going to be 4 times 4. Well, now it's just simply a matter of typing all this into a calculator. So we get 1/3 times 4 times 4 times the square root of 32. And that gives us a final volume of 30.16 inches cubed. For our final question here, we have a cone with a radius of 12 yards, and where we already know the volume. It's 310 cubic yards. And we're asked to find its height and its slant height. So let's take a look. Our cone looks something like this. Okay, we know the radius is 12 yards. And we already know the volume is 310 cubic yards. Well, let's write out the formula for volume. That's 1/3 times the base area times the height. Well, let's see, what do we know? The volume is 310. The base area is pi times r squared. That's pi times 12 squared. And the height is unknown. To isolate for height, we'll take our 310, multiply it by 3, and divide it by pi times 12 squared. Because multiplying on the right side by 3 cancels out the 1/3, and dividing by pi times 12 squared on the right side cancels out the pi and the 12 squared. Okay, so that's why we multiply by 3, divide by pi, and divide by 12 squared. Okay, if you do all that, you'll end up with some kind of height value. Let's see, if we type it in, we get what? So 310 times 3, and all that divided by pi times 12 squared. And that gives me a height of 2.05 inches. Or sorry, yards. Okay, to find the slant height, we know the height is 2.05 yards, so we'll just call it 2 for nice rounding sake. And the slant height and the height once again form a right triangle. So to find the slant height, S, we'll take 2 squared plus 12 squared equals my slant height S squared. Okay, typing all that in and doing some rough calculations, you should find that the slant height is therefore 12.16 yards. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this video.